It's 2 a.m. You know you need sleep, but you lie awake, scrolling past endless feeds, actively choosing an action that makes you miserable. This is the core paradox of behavioral self-sabotage. If we are rational creatures who know exactly what is good for us, like sleeping, eating well, or treating people kindly, why do we consistently choose chaos and conflict? In 1864, the Russian author Fyodor Dostoevsky looked at a world that was becoming increasingly obsessed with trying to solve this exact problem through logic and systems. St. Petersburg was caught in a transition. As Western European rationalism arrived, it brought the belief that reason alone should govern all human behavior. The intellectual circles of the era shared a utopian dream known as the Crystal Palace. This was a theoretical society where science, mathematics, and reason would permanently eradicate all pain and suffering. But Dostoevsky saw a flaw in this perfect system. It treats human beings as piano keys, mechanical objects meant to be played by the laws of nature. He created a character to prove this utopian vision wrong. The underground man is not a hero. He is a spiteful, bitter troll whose entire existence demonstrates that human nature will inevitably rebel against a perfectly structured mathematical society. The underground man rejects the stone wall of science. To him, the unquestionable logic that 2 + 2 = 4 isn't a comfort, it is an insult to his free will. This visualizes Bentham's utilitarianism. Human choices maximize pleasure and minimize pain. The underground man shatters this calculus using a simple toothache. A person will consciously choose to wallow in pain, finding a perverse pleasure in the sound of their agonizing moans. This self-degradation is deliberate. By choosing misery, he proves that humans are not bound by logical self-interest. We will hurt ourselves just to prove we have the freedom to do so. Sociologist Max Weber would later describe rationalization as the rigid, bureaucratic structuring of society. This is exactly the kind of sterile perfection the utopian Crystal Palace demands. Our protagonist is terrified of this indestructible building. In a flawlessly organized system, there is no room for an individual to rebel, to act out, or to simply put one's tongue out at the rules. His theory comes down to this: the freedom of choice, even the freedom to do something entirely self-destructive, is far more vital to the human soul than guaranteed engineered happiness. It's easy to preach a philosophy of intentional chaos from a basement, but how does this theory function out in the real world? Sociologist Emil Durkheim used the term anomie to describe extreme social disconnection and a total breakdown of moral guidance. The underground man is the living embodiment of anomie. We see this clearly when he discovers some former schoolmates are throwing a farewell dinner for an officer named Zverkov. Knowing full well he is despised, he forces his way into the event anyway. He doesn't try to make amends. Instead, he spends hours pacing the room in spiteful humiliation, using his own hyper-awareness to ruin the evening and ensure his total isolation from the group. When the men eventually leave him behind to visit a brothel, he follows. There, he meets a young prostitute named Liza, and he immediately sees an opportunity to assert his dominance. He delivers a manipulative, grandiose speech, vividly painting a horrific picture of her dying alone. He weaponizes his intellect to crush her spirit and exert emotional control over her. The climax arrives days later when Liza visits his apartment and catches him mid-breakdown. When she offers genuine sympathy, he panics. He insults her and shoves money into her hand, trying to reduce her back to a transaction. Karl Marx's theory of economic determinism argues that a person's social status and economic necessity strictly dictate their choices and their consciousness. As an impoverished, oppressed worker with no safety net, economic determinism dictates that Liza must take the money. It's the only logical choice for her survival. But Liza throws the money away. She walks out into the night because she values her human dignity far above her material needs. It is Liza, the socially degraded prostitute, not the highly educated narrator, who actually demonstrates true noble free will. She defies the mechanical laws of society, while he remains enslaved by his own spite. Realizing what he's done, the underground man chases after Liza into the falling snow, but she is already gone, leaving him completely alone. He retreats into his underground, a literal basement and a psychological prison, trapped by his own toxic defense mechanisms. His life serves as a stark warning. It exposes the paralyzing danger of overthinking and shows how radical individualism ultimately severs all meaningful human connection. Yet his spite provides a diagnostic clarity. He identified the limits of a purely logical society, recognizing that human nature escapes the rows of a spreadsheet. Dostoevsky ends with a final question. Which is better, cheap happiness or exalted sufferings? It suggests that the freedom to choose, even suffering, is the only thing protecting our individuality from the systems we build.